Many of us have experienced that sinking feeling, but not quite the same way this person's experiencing it, and not quite the same way that several people in this video will experience it. Welcome back, guys. I'm your host, Broncos Guru, and it's this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. Our first incident to make the news this week is going to be a stolen water taxi up in Victoria. Police were called to the city's upper harbor around 3 a.m. after a Victoria ferry company reported a man had stolen one of their boats and was piloting the vessel up the waterway. Officers accompanied by a harbor ferry maintenance supervisor hopped into another boat and gave chase. They were soon joined by the Canadian Coast Guard carrying additional officers. Here's footage from surveillance cameras caught just before the gentleman stole the vessel.
What are they doing? How come homeless people don't stay here? This is so fun.
Authorities were able to quickly catch up to the suspect and persuade him off the vessel.
And eventually, after a lengthy time, trying to negotiate with this individual, they turned off their boat and they did surrender. They were taken into custody without further incident. My understanding, a low speed chase. Yeah, they don't move too quickly. So all in all, a successful resolution.
It was a sad day in an iconic area of Miami this past week, as here we'll see a smoke-filled sky over Biscayne Bay in an area known as Stiltsville. This past week, a fire destroyed one of the few remaining homes in Stiltsville, a community of elevated homes built in the middle of Biscayne Bay that date back to the 1930s. Fire rescue teams were called to the wooden and concrete structure, but by the time they arrived, it was fully engulfed in flames. There were no boats docked at the building at the time of the fire. It's not believed anybody was inside either. There were originally 27 structures in Stiltsville. We are now down to 6, and due to this now being part of the national park system, it's unsure whether this building here will even be able to rebuild. As we continue to lose these structures, we will continue to lose a piece of boating history. Our next incident to make the boating news this week is going to keep us in Florida, where a woman and 2 dogs were rescued this past week on a 32-foot sailboat that was taking on water in rough conditions near Shell Key. The Coast Guard released this video of the rescue that shows the sailboat rocking in rough waters as the Coast Guard response boat sent from St. Petersburg approaches. The captain of the sailing vessel radioed for help, saying her vessel was taking on water. 2 rescue boats were dispatched out to assess the situation and give assistance. The Coast Guard determined, though, due to the poor weather, the safest situation was to actually tie up to this vessel and tow it back in it. Fortunately, they were able to do so before the vessel took on too much water, and they were able to get this successfully back into safe harbor at Tierra Verde Marina. The next item to make the boating news this week is going to be fully autonomous boating. While this has been coming to cars for a while now, this is really the first time I've heard about this in boating. Of course, we do have autopilot on many vessels, but that's just a point-to-point navigation, and in most situations, it won't avoid obstacles that come in its path.
Cameras like eyes, it looks at the radar, it looks at all sorts of other sensors, and then it charts its own course, and it can deal with unique situations without any human input.
This is the Mayflower, the world's first fully autonomous ship, of course named after that iconic ship that back in the 1600s sailed from the United Kingdom over to the United States. And in honor of the Mayflower's 400-year anniversary, they actually plan to have this version of the Mayflower repeat that exact same trip.
I thought, well, we should build a ship that speaks to the next 400 years, what the marine enterprise will look like then, as opposed to what it looked like 400 years ago.
They of course do expect this Mayflower to do that trip with 0 crew on board. This ship's main purpose and design is ocean exploration in areas that have difficult access, due to this vessel not really needing any fuel since it's solar and wind powered and not having to maintain crew. Our next incident to make the boating news this week is going to be a great white shark. Now I know that might not be newsworthy, but the kind of encounter that happened here is a little bit. This is Erica Allman and her crew on board Offshore Therapy, and here you can see this shark, well, it's trying to take a bite out of these Mercury Marine motors. The crew was about 65 miles offshore in the Gulf doing a little bit of fishing when this shark decided it was going to engage them. The shark actually hung out with the vessel according to the crew for almost 2 to 3 hours, continually coming up, trying to bite the motors, and hanging out around the vessel. While it's not all that uncommon for a great white shark to engage a vessel while fishing, especially when there's food around, it is a little strange that it would try and attack the motors. Scientists do have a theory on this. They believe electromagnetic pulses from the motor can confuse the shark, thus the shark gets curious about what the motor is. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out in your waterways, be sure to hit me up on Facebook or Instagram and let me know, and you might see your stories over here, just like Noah Ketchum and Adam Coolidge did this week. And if you haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on that subscribe button.